Chapter 4. Jerusalem is Zion and Zion is Jerusalem 3. Under this topic, we will examine Zion being referred to as the city of David. We will note that some Bible verses state the Ark of the Covenant is in Zion, while others claim it is in Jerusalem. However, since the Ark of the Covenant is singular, it can only be in one place at a time. It cannot be in two places simultaneously. 2 Samuel 5, 6, 7, 9. The king and his men marched to Jerusalem to attack the Jebusites, who lived there. The Jebusites said to David, "You will not get in here, even the blind and the lame can ward you off." They thought, "David cannot get in here." Nevertheless, David captured the fortress of Zion, which is the city of David. David then took up residence in the fortress and called it the city of David. He built up the area around it, from the terraces inward. Originally, Jerusalem belonged to the Jebusites. When David sought to conquer the city, the Jebusites taunted him, saying, "You will not get in here, even the blind and the lame can ward you off." However, David successfully captured the city. Inside Jerusalem, there was a fortified castle, the Jebusite stronghold. David transformed this location into his own city, building numerous houses and establishing it as the city of David, also known as Zion. Since Zion was part of Jerusalem, Zion could be found in Jerusalem. 1 Chronicles 11 verses 4 to 8. David and all the Israelites marched to Jerusalem, that is, Jebus. The Jebusites who lived there said to David, "You will not get in here." Nevertheless, David captured the fortress of Zion, which is the city of David. David had said, "Whoever leads the attack on the Jebusites will become commander-in-chief." Joab son of Zeruiah went up first, and so he received the command. David then took up residence in the fortress, and so it was called the city of David. He built up the city around it, from the terraces to the surrounding wall, while Joab restored the rest of the city. Within Jerusalem, David resided in Zion, which became known as the city of David. Consequently, visiting Zion means visiting the city of David, located within Jerusalem. Zion is a subset of Jerusalem. After conquering the city, David designated a portion for himself and tasked his commander, Joab, with rebuilding the remainder of Jerusalem. 1 Chronicles 15, 1. After David had constructed buildings for himself in the city of David, he prepared a place for the Ark of God and pitched a tent for it. From this verse, David teaches us a valuable lesson about balance in our lives. After accumulating wealth, he built houses for himself in the city of David, demonstrating that it's acceptable to acquire properties for personal use. However, David also built a tabernacle for God, showing that alongside personal prosperity, we must prioritize giving back to God. This balance is crucial. As we enrich ourselves, we must also honor God. But we must acquire wealth through righteous means. Failure to acknowledge God's place in our prosperity may lead to accountability before Him. In ancient times, the city of David, also known as Zion, housed the royal cemetery where King David and his descendants were buried. This cemetery held the tombs of Israel's monarchs. 1 Kings 2:10. Then David rested with his ancestors and was buried in the city of David. David was buried in Zion, the city of David. 1 Kings 11:43. Then he rested with his ancestors and was buried in the city of David his father. And Rehoboam his son succeeded him as king. Solomon, son of David, was also buried in Zion, the city of David. 1 Kings 14:31. And Rehoboam rested with his ancestors and was buried with them in the city of David. His mother's name was Naamah, she was an Ammonite. And Abijah his son succeeded him as king. Rehoboam, son of Solomon, was also buried in Zion, city of David, which is part of Jerusalem. 2 Kings 14, 18-20. As for the other events of Amaziah's reign, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? They conspired against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish, but they sent men after him to Lachish and killed him there. He was brought back by horse and was buried in Jerusalem with his ancestors, in the city of David. Amaziah, like his predecessors, was buried in Jerusalem, in the city of David, also known as Zion. Being buried in Zion implied being buried in Jerusalem, and vice versa. This is because Zion was a part of Jerusalem, and Jerusalem encompassed Zion. The two terms were often used synonymously. 2 Samuel 6:12, 16-17. The Lord has blessed the household of Obed-Edom and everything he has, because of the ark of God. So David went to bring up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom to the city of David with rejoicing. As the ark of the Lord was entering the city of David, Michal, daughter of Saul, watched from a window. And when she saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, she despised him in her heart. They brought the ark of the Lord and set it in its place inside the tent that David had pitched for it, and David sacrificed burnt offerings and fellowship offerings before the Lord. According to these verses, David built a tabernacle for the Ark of the Covenant in Zion, the city of David. 1 Kings 8:1. Then King Solomon summoned into his presence at Jerusalem the elders of Israel, all the heads of the tribes and the chiefs of the Israelite families, to bring up the Ark of the Lord's covenant from Zion, the city of David. This verse distinguishes Jerusalem from Zion, revealing that after David built the tabernacle, the Ark of the Lord's covenant remained in Zion. Later, Solomon requested its transfer from Zion to Jerusalem. This indicates that during David's reign, the Ark resided in Zion, not Jerusalem. This distinction may seem confusing initially, but further reading will clarify this. 2 Chronicles 1:4. Now David had brought up the ark of God from Kiriath-Jearim to the place he had prepared for it, because he had pitched a tent for it in Jerusalem. According to this verse, David built a tent for the Lord in Jerusalem, housing the ark of God, whereas previously it was said to be in Zion. However, since the ark cannot be in two places simultaneously, this indicates Zion and Jerusalem are interchangeable terms. 2 Samuel 15:24-29. Zadok was there, too, and all the Levites who were with him were carrying the ark of the covenant of God. They set down the ark of God, and Abiathar offered sacrifices until all the people had finished leaving the city. Then the king said to Zadok, "Take the ark of God back into the city. If I find favor in the Lord's eyes, he will bring me back and let me see it and his dwelling place again. But if he says, 'I am not pleased with you,' then I am ready, let him do to me whatever seems good to him." The king also said to Zadok the priest, "Do you understand? Go back to the city with my blessing. Take your son Ahimaaz with you, and also Abiathar's son Jonathan. You and Abiathar return with your 2 sons. I will wait at the fords in the wilderness until word comes from you to inform me." So Zadok and Abiathar took the ark of God back to Jerusalem and stayed there. During Absalom's rebellion against his father David, both sides prepared for battle. Following ancient tradition, the ark of God was brought along to accompany David's army. However, David ordered the priests to return the ark to its original location. The last verse says, "So Zadok and Abiathar took the ark of God back to Jerusalem and stayed there." When David and Absalom went to war, the ark of the covenant was taken from Jerusalem. At that time, David had not yet become king, and the tabernacle for the ark of God had not been built, but the ark was already housed in Jerusalem. However, 1 Kings 8 verse 1 states that after Solomon built the temple, he had the Ark of the Covenant brought from Zion to Jerusalem. But previous verses indicated the Ark was already in Jerusalem. This suggests that Jerusalem and Zion are interchangeable terms. In essence, if Zion is part of or synonymous with Jerusalem, then the ark's presence in Zion implies its presence in Jerusalem, and vice versa. The city of David is synonymous with Zion and Jerusalem. This city has multiple names, allowing us to refer to it by any of them. Notably, in biblical references where both Jerusalem and Zion are mentioned together, God treats them as a single entity. Zephaniah 3:16-17. On that day they will say to Jerusalem, "Do not fear, Zion, do not let your hands hang limp. The Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves. He will take great delight in you, in his love he will no longer rebuke you, but will rejoice over you with singing." This verse references Zion and Jerusalem together, followed by the singular pronoun you. Cross-referencing various translations confirms the singular usage, implying God views Zion and Jerusalem as an indivisible whole. A plural pronoun would suggest separation, reinforcing the interpretation that Zion and Jerusalem are interchangeable names for the same city. God says, "On that day they will say to Jerusalem, 'Do not fear, Zion, do not let your hands hang limp,' and will rejoice over you with singing." Although Zion and Jerusalem are mentioned separately, they are addressed as one entity, using the singular pronoun you. This unified reference indicates that Zion and Jerusalem are interchangeable names for the same city. Therefore, Zion and Jerusalem are synonymous, referring to the same city. Consequently, the Ark of the Covenant's presence in Jerusalem signifies its presence in Zion. Royal burials in Zion equate to burials in Jerusalem.